It's New Brew Thursday! Woo! And it's the Weihenstephaner Smackdown.
Smackdown in your face!
I guess. No,
it's more of a battle royale, really.
I don't think that they're going to battle each other. I think they're all going to complement each other nicely.
I'm not sure what brought this show on. There's a new store that opened up by my house that I went to, and I saw a bunch of Weihenstephaner beer, and I'm like, it'd be cool if we did a show on a bunch of Weihenstephaner beer. And so now we're doing a show on a bunch of Weihenstephaner beer.
Yep. So we're doing 5 beers.
Yes, we're doing the original premium, the Kristall Weissbeir, the Heffeweissbier Dark, the Korbinian, and the Vitus. So,
which the Vitus has made a appearance. Can you start opening and pouring? Because we hit,
Don't mind if I do.
We don't have an hour.
We've done Vitus before on Master Pairings. But what we're doing here, we're not going to do one beer at a time. We're doing like a vertical, basically, because these, except for the Weihenstephaner original, which is it's a Helles, everything else is a Weissbier, right?
The Korbinian is a Doppelbock, which would...
Okay, Korbinian is a Doppelbock, but the Vitus is, let's see.
Weizenbock.
It's a Weizenbock, the Korbinian is a Doppelbock, then there's the Heffeweissbier Dark, which speaks for itself. The Kristall Weissbeir, which is basically a clarified Weizenbock that...
clarified Heffeweissen.
I'm sorry. That they made to compete with Pilsners and whatnot. An interesting fact, I guess the Bavarian royal family, the whole Weihenstephaner thing came about because they wanted to have ultimate control over wheat beer. So they said beer can only be made with barley, hops, water, and yeast. And
by the way,
only they get to add wheat.
Yeah.
So.
Nice. And also, this brewery is known as the oldest brewery in the world, even though that's somewhat apparently contested by another brewery that started 10 years later in 1050. But I'm like, yeah, but you were in 1050 and this is 1040, so they were before you. Why are you contesting it? But also because they, it's not even necessarily 1040 because, and this is AD, by the way. They actually in 795.
I thought you meant BC.
They found paperwork. The world 1,000 years before Jesus, they were brewing beer.
Jesus was like, "Can I dump the hops in?"
Jesus is my brewmaster.
That's a T-shirt if I've ever heard of one.
Jesus is my brewmaster.
Whoa, we're cross-mogenating.
That'd be like for a Utah brewery.
No, John Smith. John Smith is my brewmaster in Utah.
That's a good one. Yeah.
No, anyway, but in 750 or 795, somewhere around there, there's paperwork indicating that there was a hop farm that was paying tithes to the abbey. Huh. So it's clear that they were probably brewing about 300 years before they had to get licensing.
I'm sure they were tithing through hops.
Yeah, so this 1040 is when they got their license to actually be a brewery in Germany.
At the end of the day, they're really fucking old.
So we're just going to go ahead and drink these like they were shots.
All right, so this is, and I'm assuming mine's going horizontal, so we're going in the order here.
Yep.
Yours is like that, and yours is like that.
We're kind of like
John's
changing it up. We're changing it up as far as like our formations.
Yeah, the reason we're doing this is like it's easy to buy these beers, and I mean they're not similar, but they're similar enough to where you might not be able to pick out the differences if you tried them months apart from one another.
Yeah.
So trying all of the Weihenstephaner beers in a row kind of lets you experience them and
the little subtle differences and
yeah,
definitely.
All right, so cheers.
Let's cheers this.
Original premium, bitches. What's up?
Let's do it.
First of all, look at the clarity of this. It's like crystalline. Like I should be a witch, like casting spells into it.
It's a Helles, so it should be.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a good just stand like this is the standard which all Helleses need to step in line and be like,
a lot of bread notes, you know.
Bready is a little bit spicy.
Got some sweetness on there.
Yep.
A little bit of banana. The typical coriander you're going to get from this yeast profile.
Well, from a Helles like type thing. This is not a Weissbier.
No, I know, but I mean the yeast profile for these type of lagers is very similar across the board. So you're going to get the same kind of like clovey, banana, not as much banana, but like a little bit of coriander.
I was gonna say I don't think banana. I could actually see a little bit of clove and coriander, just as like that kind of like it's It's funny because the esters are actually really light, but it is kind of an ester character. It's a very prominent yeast character, which I like a lot. That's a good catch.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's clean. You know, I mean, you can't really go wrong with the original premium.
Crisp.
This is the if you are into it, like if for some reason you watch this show and you're like, those are great beers, guys, but I really like my Coors Light. That's fine. Drink this beer. Because this is like Coors Light on steroids, like actual flavorful.
Yeah, that even sounds insulting.
It is insulting to say that.
But I see what you're saying.
This is a beer that you should switch to instead of that.
But
this is a fantastic beer to bring people into.
Yeah, it's got that nice, lager nose to it. You know, what I mean?
It's got that nice little hint of sweetness. Obviously not from corn and or rice, but it's got a nice little sweetness to it.
Rice is not going to provide sweetness. Just the opposite.
Yeah, it's a fermentable.
I realized that. I was making a joke about the fact that they use corn and rice in their beers.
So the next beer is the Kristall Weissbeir.
All right, so the deal with this beer is, like we said, I guess they decided to make a Weiss beer and clarify it to compete with Pilsners. And
Pilsner was, because, Hefeweizen was a very prominent style in Germany for a long time before Pilsner started to, migrate up from... I think the Czech region, and they started to gain so much popularity that the breweries that brewed Hefeweizen were like, we got to do something about this, and so they started clarifying their hef, which cleaned up the flavor quite a bit. It didn't have quite the same.
Some might say that
character.
It hurt the beer, though.
Yeah, no, I was going to say of the 5 we're drinking, the Kristall is my least favorite of those line.
So now that we're doing this, we can actually compare. Not that these are the same beers, but it's cool to do this.
Yep, I mean you definitely get
a lot of breadiness on the original premium.
The
Kristall
Kristall
has
Weiss
more of like a Band-Aid-y, not Band-Aid, but like a
clovey. I think it's like clovey.
Maybe it's clovey. Yeah.
I think it's clovey to me.
Neither of those are words.
Spicy-ish.
Spicy is a word, and also
Clovish.
I was thinking of Posh. She's a Spice Girl.
Oh wow, totally different flavor. Yeah, it's kind of.
I love this beer. You're wrong.
No, I'm not wrong. First of all, because this has a lot of the characteristics of a good hef. What it does not have is the full mouthfeel, the nice body, the fluffiness of a hef beer, which is what you're going for when you want to drink a hef beer. So when I drink this,
keep in mind
the flavor is really good, but I'm losing out on some of the experience. And that's just my opinion, and that's why it's like, it's not a bad beer. I would never tell someone not to drink this beer, but it's not my favorite of the 5.
If this was in fact made to compete with Pilsners, then they succeeded by taking away some of that mouthfeel and some of that bigness.
Yeah, and like you
Kids,
said, that's
never change yourself for other people. Be who you are. You be you. And you'll succeed every time.
Kids, conform.
The more you know.
Children, conform.
All right, on the rails. We're going to get back on the rails here.
Okay.
One cool thing about Weihenstephaner is that they've been around for so long, they're actually kind of a source of beer education in Germany. And they also have a massive yeast bank. It's like you'll look at different companies that have different kinds of yeasts, like, White Labs and Wyeast. They actually sourced some of their hef strains and their lager strains from Weihenstephaner originally. That was the way back source.
I'm not sure if this beer is actually an ale or this is a weird beer.
I'm pretty sure it's an ale, yeah, because it's got that. I believe the Kristall Weiss, their Heffeweissbier and the Heffeweissbier Dark all use the same yeast. If I'm not
speaking
mistaken.
of the Heffeweissbier Dark,
right?
You get like I don't get the normal aroma off this that I'm used to.
a little more of that caramely-ness, I think, on the aroma. Right?
Yeah, they got to use the same yeast. They both have the same clove character.
Yeah.
I mean that flavor, that clove ester is like right there.
I'm getting something dirty off of this, but I don't think it's the beer.
Yeah, but that
it's
clove, it's kind of diminished by the darker malts that they add.
Yeah, for sure.
It kind of smooths it out. And this is actually a little bit easier to drink, I think, than the Kristall Weissbeer.
Yeah, the Kristall Weiss has a little bit of bite to it because of the dryness. I mean, the Kristall Weiss is super
Well, and this
dry.
is what I was talking about with the mouthfeel and the fluffiness and the body that you get off of an unfiltered hef beer that you're not getting off of the Kristall, because this is going to have a lot more fullness in your mouth and you're not going to get that dry kind of sharp kick at the end. You're going to get a nice smooth finish off of it.
Yeah, and I mean, even comparing the colors of the lager and the Kristall Weiss, they're pretty much the same color.
Yeah.
Where this one with the Kristall Weiss and the Heffeweissbier Dark, definitely some cloudiness. It's got definitely a different color. This is more of a darker yellow, almost orangish.
Yeah, it's like
a 2 to a 5
copper
SRM.
So it's significantly different.
I'd say this is probably like closer to like a 7 or 8 SRM. I actually think the Kristall Weiss it feels more carbonated in my mouth.
Oh, well.
So
Okay.
So that would add to a little bit of that sharpness.
Well, yeah, and that's
Sharpness and less body.
that has to do with the lack of body. That's going to give it that bigger carbonation note to it.
Well, not only that, but if you have a lighter body, if you bump up the carbonation, it adds to that bite. Because if you have a certain texture to the beer, if you add carbonation, it adds to that kind of fluffiness.
So Korbinian is a Doppelbock.
Doppelbock, which is obviously the very much darker one.
Doppelbock.
And Bock is goat.
It's a double goat.
Isn't
Double
it
goat.
all?
Isn't it all goats? Yeah. It's just all goats.
Oh.
It's all
All goats, man.
A lot more of that rich aroma.
Yeah, this is much more caramel, much more like bread, like dark
bready,
sweet bread,
doughy.
Yeah.
Now this
That's
is
that
not
Munich
a wheat. This is not a Weiss, right?
No.
It's a
No, this is mostly Munich malt.
And again,
Usually
this is what we
Doppelbock.
picked up at the store, and we're not going for any particular Weiss beer theme here. It's just
Right.
I think,
Here's the thing about these particular beers. Every single person watching the show right now can find this beer.
Yep.
Don't even question that.
Yep.
B, you've got 5 beers here, and that represents about what, $12?
Yeah.
I think it was no, it's probably around $20.
I think like $3 or $4 a bottle, something like
Yeah.
that.
I mean, this is a good, high quality, accessible, cheap beer.
This is not only is it high quality. I mean, this is world class. This is one of the best breweries in the world.
No one questions these guys.
Yeah, the Korbinian has aside obviously it's significantly darker compared to the Heffeweissbier Dark.
Baby,
this is
that's
an
good.
orange and this is an amber color.
This
has like a certain sugariness that kind of you can chew
I want some
on a little
nice.
bit,
I want some
you
nice
know?
German sausages and.
Don't you always?
Yeah, some like
sorry,
no,
what is
like some kind of like
so inappropriate,
some
man.
sausages that have that that
Yeah,
Maillard
nice
reaction.
Maillard reaction, like just some nice like caramel notes with some like caramelized onions.
with a little bit of spice.
Oh my god,
maybe,
that'd be
too.
so good with
Yeah.
this right now. It might be that I'm just hungry.
Yeah,
but
really. Fun fact: what we're actually the technical term for what we're doing right now is actually a horizontal tasting. You hear about vertical tastings where people will take the same beer or wine and they'll do multiple years.
Right.
What we're actually doing is a horizontal where you have one brewery and you do a bunch of different beers from that brewery. It's a horizontal tasting.
And the beers, I mean, they have
Thank
to
you
be
for that, Matt.
somewhat related closely. I think these are close enough to where we could say, yeah, this is this. And because obviously, if you go to, okay, I'm going to do the Hef, and then I'm going to do a smoked porter, and then I'm going to do the Imperial Russian Stout. It's like, well,
I'm gonna do a double IPA.
you can't really compare and contrast.
Yeah. No.
This
and
is like a gradual kind of.
for your typical
thing.
horizontal tasting like that, when you're focusing on brewery, though, it's more about getting the palate of the brewery.
It's getting a feel for them.
Yeah, you're doing more about learning what the brewery is doing and figuring out like what their style is. Because I mean, there's lots of and that's what's fun about taking multiple breweries' smoked porters and trying them out and see like which one does one differently. So I mean, this kind of thing, whether it's the same brewery or it's different vintages or it's the same style of beer from different breweries, this is always a good time. Like just grab a bunch of different beers that have some connection.
What we're trying to say is
try them out.
Doing side by sides, literally side by side, where you can put this one down, grab this one, and go.
Revisit it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's got that. It's got like a more estery wheat note to it, but it's still got some carboniness. Well, then you go to the Korbinian.
Yep.
It's all about the caramel malt. It's all about this rich flavor.
Well, and it's like,
and
and
this
you
is
might-
what I was saying in the beginning. Like you might buy these beers separately over a matter of weeks, and you can't necessarily unless you have a really good memory and a really good palate, you can't store that information away.
You're not gonna remember the nuances.
Yeah.
And that's what you're getting is like you get the nuances of each of these beers, and it's like you go from here to here to here to here, and you're like, oh, like I get this weird like something that I recognize, and you go back to this one, and you're like, oh yeah, I get it off of this, and you're like, oh well, they probably use the same malt, or they probably use the same this or whatever.
Which was like one thing that I loved about was just putting the Kristall Weiss and the Heffeweissbier Dark side by side, because like you said, there's a very particular house yeast note that you can pick out right away.
Yeah.
And which is why I'm looking forward to the Vitus.
The Vitus.
Which is
Vitus.
We must cheers this beer.
Yes, we
Yes,
should.
cheers to the Vitus.
One thing that I love about the Weizenbock style is...
Wow, that smells good.
Yeah. The thing I love about Weizenbock is kind of like the original imperial-ing of a beer, because a Weizenbock essentially is a Hefeweizen, only way bigger.
Yeah.
Well, and it's their strongest beer that they do independently. Infinium is a stronger beer, but that's a collab with Sam Adams, so I don't really count that as
The
one
Boston
of their
Beer
beers.
Company.
Yeah, Boston Beer Company. The other fun thing about doing these kind of tastings is that you can kind of revisit your memories from all the different tastings that you've been to, because if you're like us, you have thousands of tasting glasses from various events you've been to. And I'm looking at this table and I'm remembering like 5 years worth of beer events right now. And that's cool.
First, I thought you were going to talk about how difficult it is to remember most tastings.
Well, that too.
Well, that too, yeah.
But getting...
I mean, look at this. This is our first anniversary glass.
Yeah, it's pimp. Getting
John's like, yeah, whatever.
the Vita, I mean, big banana. I mean, on the aroma, the flavor, a lot of esters. It's really soft.
It's...
And
Is there such a thing as a
7.7
double Weizen? I guess
Weizenbock. Weizenbock
A
is...
double Weizenbock.
Yeah, Weizenbock. Well, because Bock is goat, so like it hits you like a goat. And so I think
that's their term for double.
Yeah, sort of. There's a bunch of different kinds of Bock. I mean, there's my Bock and just.
Well, yeah, back in the day, and they still do, I think. But Sam Adams did the double Bock and the triple Bock.
Yeah, sticking with it. I mean, this to me is like dessert. This was actually a good beer to finish this with, because you get a lot of sweetness from it. You get the banana from the yeast. It's in the aroma.
Just a little bit of that, not booze, but just a little bit of that alcohol warming.
Yeah, it's a really this worked out great the way we did it. We just kind of threw it together and it worked out pretty good.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean,
we planned it all the way to the end.
Yeah, and you're right, because it's funny with this. The banana definitely pops more than that clove does. Because usually when you're talking about German wheat beers, your Hefeweizens or Weizenbocks.
This is the cool thing we can do.
Yeah.
Right now is I totally interrupted you.
A little bit. It's okay.
It's so rare when John overtalks. You should let him do it.
Shut up.
No, I'm being completely serious.
Yeah. You
usually it's me and Matt interrupting you.
John, did you say something right now? Well, that's fun because I'm going to talk. But no, usually with German wheat beers, you've got banana clove. That's kind of like the standard flavor duality as far as that style goes, and it's usually emphasizing one or another.
But a cool thing we can do right now. Interrupt you.
No, let's go back and forth.
We could compare Vitus with the Kristall Weissbeir. They're both wheat beers. This is a Doppel.
The poor Kristall.
A Weizenbock. Yes.
It's not even gonna. It's like being punched by a big bully in the schoolyard.
This you get more of that light sweetness.
Spice. It's got
more spice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
The Vitus, it's more that banana. Oh, this is definitely closer to like a Pilsner-y kind of thing when you have it next to like
you can't. I think that's. Well, it makes me dislike the Kristall more. Just because I'm sorry, like this is just such a fantastic. Everything about this beer is just perfect. The way it feels in my mouth, the way it washes over my tongue, what it leaves behind when it's done, and I hear it all as I'm saying it. But I mean, like the flavor profile, everything about the Vitus is just. No, I'm not a hater.
You're a hater.
What I'm saying is like. Kristall has that capability, but it's washed away with
This is not Kristall.
Well, whatever it's called.
It's Kristall.
I see what you're saying.
Everything else
It has that capability, but it's washed away with the clarification.
Well, yeah, that's exactly what we're trying to say with this. It was a filtered wheat beer that it took out all the good stuff.
Yeah.
But it's still a good beer. I mean,
it still comes out okay.
You could almost call it the fizzy yellow beer of Weihenstephaner.
Yeah.
Right?
That's a bold statement.
Which one's your favorite, Matt?
I am torn between.
I don't think we can
You
say
say
favorite.
it. You want to. You know you want to say it.
I know I am honestly torn between the Korbinian or the Kristall Weiss. I like the Kristall Weiss a
Now
lot.
stop. Let's try that.
Stop.
Korbinian?
Collaborate and listen.
Yeah, whatever.
Ice is back with the brand new one.
So these are two totally different beers.
They are two radically different beers, but if someone like stopped me and they were like, these beers 1 to 10, rate them, I wouldn't. I would just say, well, I like this one and this one. And like as far as my first reaction, how much I enjoyed, drinking them, I would say either Korbinian or the Kristall Weiss.
So you're going off just your personal enjoyment.
Just instinct, just first reaction. That's what I would say.
You can enjoy them equally.
Exactly.
For different reasons.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
And that's very true. I do enjoy them for different reasons. Like I like, the Korbinian because it's like got that malty fullness, it's warming, it's got a lot of complexity to it, it's got a lot going on, stuff like that. The Kristall Weiss I like because, it's super crisp, it's light, it's refreshing, but it's got a little bit of that
It's almost the polar opposite.
That's true. It definitely
But
is.
still kind of similar.
Still very German.
It's so different and
nice.
yet quite the same.
Yeah, but I like I said, I like the crispness, but I also like the fact that, usually when you have those light crisp beers, you don't have that kind of yeast ester or phenolic actually quality. Usually
Well,
they're
you're talking
really
estery or phenolic?
technically the banana clove is a phenol, I believe.
So you're looking more for the cloviness rather than the sweet ester kind of thing.
Yeah, it's different. is
Oh,
what it is.
Esther, you're
It's
so
different,
sweet.
So, anyways, yeah, I like them.
That's actually very interesting, and that's
different
kind of cool.
reasons.
I like that.
John, what do you think?
I like them all. The Korbinian was probably of the darker, because these are all pretty light. You got, of the darker ones, the Korbinian was, I think, my favorite. But the original premium, that's more of a Helles. It's good. It's a great. I mean, it's the quintessential Helles beer, right?
Right.
No. I mean, I'm sure there's competitors out there that you could probably compare it to. That's probably just as good.
It's up there.
But
It's definitely in the top 5.
as far as this show goes and what I enjoyed drinking, the Vitus was great.
I think for me personally, I think each one of these beers, well, with the exception of the Kristall Weiss.
Hater.
No, I'm not a hater. I'll explain that in a minute. Each one of these beers would fit a moment in my life where I'd be like, I want that beer. So if you had the 5 beers set out, depending on what was happening at that moment, I might choose.
I will
any one
say
of the
this, Steve,
5.
you're kind of pussing out right now.
No. I'm gonna make some hard choices here in a minute. I'm just getting there.
That was fucked up.
I think that the reason I say that the Kristall doesn't count for that is because if I was ever gonna drink a Kristall, I would just drink the original, and I'd be okay with that.
But maybe
because
you want something a little lighter than the original.
I would say that the original is lighter than the Kristall.
Okay, all right.
And that's why I'm saying. It's like I get a lot of the flavor. I don't get as much of the sharpness. Like all the things that I don't like about the Kristall aren't in the original. And so I'd always just kind of fall back to the original if I was in the mood for that. And if it's a hot day and I just got done mowing the lawn, which that's funny because I would never do that, I would drink the original.
If you ever want to, where to
Right. No. For the Korbinian and the Heffeweissbier, if I was pairing it with some nice German sausage, then absolutely that's where I'm going to go.
Okay, pick a beer.
But my favorite is the Vitus because it stands by itself. It is completely 100% just a delicious beer to drink on its own.
It really is.
With nothing to back it up, nothing needed, nothing any time of the year. It's always going to be satisfying.
See what's happening over here?
Yeah, I know. He's mad. Whatever.
Haters.
The viewpoints and opinions
He had
of
a
John
bad
and
one.
I
He had a
don't necessarily
Reflect Matt's.
reflect
Matt's.
Matt's opinions. So, but it's Vitus all day long, every day.
All in all, I mean, I think this was really cool for us to do this.
This is fun.
Yeah, I had a good time with this.
Yeah, I mean, so
So speaking of good times,
we got to wrap this up quick.
yeah, really quickly, it's the last weekend of LA Beer Week. So if you haven't found your event that you needed to go to,
You're
find
lagging.
your event and
You're
get on
lagging.
it. Because you'll also get an LA Beer Week badge from Untapped. So hit that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And a couple of weeks from now is JBF. It's going to be good times. It's going to be crazy.
It will be.
And so, yeah, until next week, stay safe and drink Vitus.
Or
Kristall Weiss. Fuck you guys.
Or just good beer. Stay safe and drink beer.
Weihenstephaner.